US foreign policy has once again taken a sharp turn at the outset of 2026 that evokes bitter memories of the past for the world. Superficially, the core of this policy is national security, safeguarding American interest and global stability. However, in practice, this policy appears to be propelling the world toward deeper turmoil, distrust, and regional friction. South Asia and the Middle East have been the most profoundly impacted by this policy, where the resort to force has eroded prospects for peace and exacerbated conflicts even further. The foundation of US foreign policy has long rested on an entrenched approach centered on American dominance and the perception of deeming itself superior while regarding others as inferior. Across political, military, economic, and ideological dimensions, has solidified into a permanent element of American policy. Alongside this, under the guise of globalism, the firm commitment to impose American values and principles upon the entire world, and the endeavor to portray its advocated liberal democracy as a universal remedy for salvation, have persistently shrouded the American narrative in a veneer of moral superiority. Yet beneath this narrative lies, in truth, military might enshrined as the most decisive instrument for safeguarding American interests and ideologies. Nevertheless, the greatest vulnerability is concealed within this very mindset. The most salient critique leveled against American policies is that the United States unilaterally renders the most critical decisions without taking allies, partners, and international institutions into its confidence. Practical backing for authoritarian regimes worldwide has hollowed out America's democratic assertions, a recent illustration being the threat to seize Greenland, a fellow member of its own NATO alliance. Overwhelming dependence on military remedies over diplomacy casts America not as a global conciliator, but as a power that enforces its capricious rulings through coercive strength. US foreign policy in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Lebanon, Palestine, and Syria stands as a stark illustration of this. These protracted conflicts have not only prompted doubts regarding the breadth and sway of American strategy, but the lack of explicit objectives in these wars has rendered the American role purposeless and precarious. Prolonged military deployments across diverse regions have subjected local populations to devastating human toll, and the war's consequences, millions of civilian fatalities, millions rendered homeless, and shattered state institutions, have not only amplified regional instability but also prolonged clandestine movements, afforded extremist factions room to flourish, and steadily undermined America's global standing. Speaking solely of the Afghanistan war, according to Wikipedia, it resulted in the deaths of 176,000 individuals, including over 46,000 civilians and more than 69,000 police and security personnel. The Trump administration asserted it had concluded 8 wars, including Pakistan India tensions. Yet its tangible steps, far from bolstering regional equilibrium, intensified strains with key players like China. Despite existing defense collaboration and commercial links with India, the imposition of tariffs and coercive tactics spawned fresh schisms, manifesting in overt resentment from the Modi administration itself. In the Middle East, too, American strategy is beset by glaring inconsistencies. The Gaza crisis lingers unresolved, and US diplomacy ostensibly paves the path for a tenuous accord, yet this endeavor is sparking additional regional repercussions and competing interests. Military and economic coercion directed at Iran's nuclear program has escalated tensions to perilous heights rather than mitigating them. Menaces of assault on Iran constitute a grave peril not merely to the region but to the worldwide economy. Should the Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly one quarter of global oil commerce transits, be blockaded, oil prices could surge dramatically, plunging the entire world, Asia included, into profound economic turmoil globally. By admonishing Europe to assume its own defense burdens, The United States has introduced fissures into NATO. America is actively contributing to the marginalization of the United Nations and other multilateral bodies, leaving smaller nations increasingly vulnerable and steadily weakening the international legal order. The ambivalent approach of economic engagement coupled with rivalry toward China is likewise steering the world toward fragmentation instead of cohesion. American strategy now espouses greater emphasis on diplomacy and regional alliances, yet the stark reality is that following this pivot from soft to hard power, namely toward gunboat diplomacy, the world is progressively drifting away from the United States. Setbacks in Afghanistan, Iraq, and elsewhere have not only magnified worldwide censure of America, but have also aggravated hardships for American citizens overseas. Should this cycle of military dominance, endorsement of authoritarian regimes, and solitary decision making persist, global peace and economic progress could incur irreparable harm. Indeed, in the months ahead, America's reciprocal economic and trade bonds with numerous nations may sour even further. The lessons from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan unequivocally demonstrate that the world cannot be governed purely through armed might. Authentic stability demands multilateral engagement, robust diplomacy, and ethical partnerships, filling which this assertion of American preeminence risks becoming the heaviest encumbrance upon America itself.